My name is Marshall Taylor. I am an assistant professor of sociology here at New Mexico State University. And for this year, I am the chair of the University Research Council, which is the body on campus whose, well, one of our main charges is Research and Creativity Week. So this is the kickoff event for Research and Creativity Week 2024. So thank you so much for joining us here to kick off a great week of showcasing and celebrating research and creativity on campus through a keynote that I'm sure is going to be really great and wonderful. So like I said, Research and Creativity Week, it's all about showcasing and celebrating all of the wonderful scholarship that NMSU students, staff, and faculty produce. This year, I'm proud to say that it's bigger than it ever has been. We have over 200 presentations or different events scattered throughout the week. Think about that, over 200. And the vast majority of those are students, our student showcases, student recitations, student presentations, etc. We have, and all sorts of events. We have oral presentations, posters, short performances, media installations, keynote addresses, workshops, showcases, and music. Most events are happening in the Corbett Center, but we do have events all over campus, on and off, including obviously here in the Performing Arts Center. If you don't know where to go to find the schedule, please go to the RCW website where we have the week's agenda and links to all of the events. You can go there. It's research.nmsu.edu/other/RCW. And I decided on a whim right before I walked over here to cut out a bunch of little QR codes. So if you're at the reception and you're like, I don't remember that URL and I don't know how to Google, track me down and I'll give you one of these. Just so you know, though, I'm left-handed and I had to use right-handed scissors. So forgive me for the lack of professional quality cutting. So I'm not going to take up any more of the time. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Eva Gabriella Flynn, who is the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the University Art Museum. And thanks again, everyone, for being here this evening.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Marshall. Celia Álvarez Muñoz was born not far from here in El Paso, Texas in 1937. She studied at Texas Western University. Now we know it as that. After her undergrad degree, she quickly began a career in teaching art to children. In 1977, at the age of 40, she enrolled in graduate school at North Texas State University in Denton, now the University of North Texas. Always deeply committed to her bilingual and bicultural heritage, she has cultivated an art practice filled with playful storytelling, puns, and wordplay, all of which regularly address the experiences of living in the physical, psychological, and political border zone. Álvarez Muñoz has received numerous awards, including 2 National Endowment for the Arts grants and the Honors Award for Outstanding Achievement in the Visual Arts from the Women's Caucus for Art. Her work has been exhibited widely, such as in the Whitney Biennial and the Museum of Contemporary Art, San Diego, the Dallas Museum of Art, and the University of Texas at Arlington. Her work has been acquired by multiple public collections, including the Art Institute of Chicago, Getty Research Institute in Los Angeles, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, and Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. Currently, and very luckily for us, her exhibit, Celia Álvarez Muñoz, Breaking the Binding, can be seen on campus right here in the University Art Museum until March 2nd. So if you haven't, please go see it. So it is with great honor that I introduce you to the accomplished, talented, and always witty Celia Álvarez Muñoz.
Everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can you hear me all right? Okay, very good. Well, I love coming back to see the mountains. I grew up with that big old mountain right smack dab in the city of El Paso. And you don't think you're going to miss that, but you do. I feel a grounding every time I come back, like it anchors you. Well, why shouldn't we make art in the kitchen, huh? Let's start by thinking big. And I have the first image up. This image has been in my studio for a long time. Considering time and practice are not linear, I chose conceptual art where ideas are the drivers to explain and to provoke thinking. But you cannot dismiss the early influences in your culture that comes with you. Early literature informed me, and the borderlands offered something similar, but different approaches to life with the help of the printed word. The exposure to the oral or the written word from family and from what's around you, your environment. The borderlands, concentrating on that first part of the word, ironically gave me permission to invent and zoom back and forth in time and space, exercising, I like to say, a physical and a temporal agility acquired from living there. Thus, for me, there were no borders. This, I really believe, encouraged me to jump the disciplines into the multimedia projects. That and teaching art at all levels, from preschool over to the college level, where you are the leader of that band. You explore systems of learning, not only teaching subjects, but the art of how to think, how to figure things out through reason and research, discovering the why of things. And that, I think, allows you to set high goals, or it did me. My maternal side of the family were all readers. The public library played a big part in our home. It was an honor to have a library card. And then, during that period, we had the big magazines. Life, Look, Saturday Evening Post, newspapers and comics informed, plus the movies, with about 10 theaters in a radius of about 7 to 10 miles in El Paso. You couldn't dismiss that. World War II and space exploration, the conservative 50s, all as backdrops. And the paternal side of the family were bold, boisterous, funny. They made fun of each other, comedy. And let's see if this works. Okay. I devoured The Creatures of the Meadows by Thornton Burgess, a conservationist, author of about 170 children's books and 15,000 stories for newspapers. All stories of survival and of why. From across the border came the daily historietas, as can be found in the Hemeroteca Nacional de Mexico, the periodical library archive specializing in art. We looked forward to daily episodes that came in different sizes. Among them, Here's an extension of the book. And then we're now in the Mexican archive. These stories came in a very small magazine, comic form. And they went by the title, La Familia Burrón o Vida de Perro. The Burrón family or a dog's life. Apartment dwellers, ironic lives, and the use of language. I realized that language could be a medium to give voice to the ineffable, which is that can't be explained. They were dwellers that confronted everyday experiences in a very humorous ways. And here we have Urola, who is the mother, and she is serving sangria. And sangria, you know, is a wine drink, but she said she's serving it to a vampire. So there's the language, sangre, sangria, you know, where you jump the borders. I'm telling you to think big, but I started with very small works. This is like a 4 by 4 inch book. Double Bubble in World War II. But they were small books of big ideas. You pairing Double Bubble with World War II. All this fell into the movement that was very popular during the 70s and 80s, and that was artist books. A period of exploration and form and text and many other things. The music scene, a period of words and experiments, breaking loose in the 60s with civil rights and the women's movement and the pride. The Enlightenment series, which this is a part of, are little epiphanies or questions of wonderment, my own enlightenment, my own voice, and those of my contrasting families. I like to compare it to translating the obscure into a language of wonder. Okay, here you have La Honey, and I went from paper products to wood frame and containers to make them sturdier, hardier. I was sending the books out and they were coming back damaged. And so there was a lot of correction. So you have to aim higher as you go along your production. From the very small works, I jumped to installation work. This was very motivating project that was born here in El Paso. I moved away, never moved back, and I would come and visit my parents, bring my family. But I started seeing something very peculiar happening around the city. Areas that had been transformed, that had once been white neighborhoods, started having coloration. Coloration was added to the houses. Yard art was very different. So I observed that and started just clicking away, brought the camera and hunted for that difference. Well, it's turned out to be the displacement, the huge demographic displacement during the Chamizal Treaty, which you all know gave back to Mexico a lot of acreage along the border. And the photographs were made into small, like postcard size. This was before I started the books. And when I was given my first chance to tackle a big space at the Tyler Museum of Art, I needed to make big works. So I had to jump in size. Photography being, well, not as affordable as it is now with the digital age. I could not have made those works as I had envisioned them, as large photographs. So I taught myself to airbrush and then enlarge the images and then developed another story to create an environment. This is postales, which means postcards. And it's a tale about aspiration. I always wanted to live in a house with a porch and a garden in the front yard. It's like a child's voice, aspiring, wanting something else, wanting something more. And then to conclude it, to cinch it and make it into a neighborhood, the mispronunciation of streets was the perfect element. So I went to the street department where all the signs are made and requested streets names with very peculiar spellings. It was a mispronunciation by English speakers of Spanish names and vice versa. So we have Martinez and Martinez. We have El Paso and El Paso. I went to Austin and it was Guadalupe, was Guadalupe. Went to San Antonio, found the same thing. So I took and picked and chose from different cities and then adapted them, and they're suspended. The intersections are suspended from the ceilings. There's a couple here in the exhibition. Yeah, that's the first scroll. And they contain insects. It's from the garden. But a lot of the insects are hybrids, like maybe a cricket is part cricket or part grasshopper. So it's this blending of the two cultures and making something new. This, the inchworm, is just an inchworm. Aspiration sometimes takes a lot of patience. I was working at the University of Texas, Arlington, and it was during the 80s when the influx of large installation works were being exhibited and brought to the universities to broaden, the programs. And I was teaching there. So I started seeing all these wonderful projects. And having taught here in the El Paso system, and knowing very well the dedication that it takes to be an academician, I chose to just break from academia and then go into production. This is, as the title of the exhibition, Rompiendo la Liga, breaking the binding. So the book form was broken into, larger installations and more ephemeral type of installations so that it could move me. I packaged myself, took my images under my arm, and they had to move me to do the installations instead of the work. It's all temporary, like you will see some here in the exhibition, where there's a lot of wall paintings and sometimes, three-dimensional objects. But this portability, again, like jumping across the border, like going back and forth, having that will and the desire and freedom for this dual type of existence was just very fitting. This combines wall paintings and slide projections. And it's a story about art patrons and patron saints. And those patron saints are easily dealt with. Art patrons are a little bit more difficult. So that's what this is about. Abriendo Tierra, there again, it's like breaking. This breaking thing kind of followed me, or thematically accommodated itself in my mind. Abriendo Tierra, this was the expansion of the Dallas Museum of Art. And we had the opportunity to explore. So they have a series of featured exhibitions by regional, local artists. Concentrations. And this was part of concentrations. There's 2 rooms that were dedicated to that. But in between the 2 rooms was a big hallway and a very competitive area. There was a Klaus Oldenburg, a huge, huge rope with a spike that went into the floor and came out in the basement of the museum. And then a soloist too. Very competitive spaces adjacent to the concentration space. So I said, well, I don't want to be confined to a room. So let's break out of that format and let's go with the walls, the walls that house those rooms, and then use the glass wall, which are the doors and windows, and then take it out to the outdoor garden. And here I had to dialogue with a Kelly minimal piece of sculpture. And so I went and marked my spot. I did a Mogollon type of structure from, the Mogollon Indian from this region. And it's a story of my grandparents crossing over, migrating. So the pool served a real good purpose too, a waterway. And a neon sign marked, an X in the pool. So there was an expansion of format for that one by the museum, and that it allowed the project to grow. So from that which is architecture that I'm addressing. Okay. This is at Cornell University, and it's a Philip Johnson building. There were 11 ephemeral installations. And when we were invited to go and look at this, the site, they took us artists into the museum so we could, locate an area that we wanted to have our piece occupy. Well, before we went inside, I had already fallen in love with the building itself. So instead of doing something inside in a space, I said, let me use the building. And I collaborated with another artist, Daniel Martinez from California, who was really tech savvy. And that's what I do too. I hunt, for production facility. And I told him what I wanted to do. I said, I want this to address the reason why Cornell University came to be. and it was built by telegraph money. So I wanted the museum to be a beacon, to emit telegraphic messages, and it did. And then we had the cooperation of the newspaper that printed riddles every day with Morse code coding. So you had the option of following it or dismissing it and enjoying a light show. So addressing architecture more. All right. Center for the Arts in Yerba Buena Garden, San Francisco. This room had been, it's a very large room, and it had been for group exhibitions. And I was the first solo artist and had to tackle a big subject for a big space. And it was during the period where bulimia and anorexia surfaced, for girls, with girls. So the bottom line, as I see it, was the sexualization by the fashion industries and by our advertising. Having a hitch in advertising, I worked for the White House department store before finishing undergrad. So the commercial art aspect of making things sellable was already, something that I embraced and enjoyed addressing. So I critiqued the fashion industry, designed a lot of garments. Being in San Francisco and proximate to the San Francisco Opera, they hired the seamstress from the San Francisco Opera to do, from my drawings, to do the garments. And you see a section of it in the exhibition. You have like from Pampers that are made out of lace up to, just women's passages through life. During that time, also, Public Art summoned, and this is the first one. This was done for Snug Harbor Airport. In Phoenix, Arizona. And we were given a space, and so immediately I thought to connect it to its region, to its locality, and thought of aircraft. And a simulation of a B-17 was the result. I had the assistance of the Confederate Air Force that I sought out in the area that restored all World War II aircraft. And they supplied a bunch of anti-gauges. So this collaborative aspect is something that I really embrace. I mean, if somebody can make what I dream up, well, let's see if we can work together and make something. And I have been pretty lucky in having the cooperation of fellow artists or fabricators that enjoy maybe stepping out of their realm and then making a reality of this idea. This is called Sentimental Journey. It's a 10 by 14 piece, 10 by 14 feet piece. And it tells the story of traversing Arizona and stopping at Phoenix to cool off. This is post-World War II, and we have the system of highways developing during that time, during the Eisenhower administration. And so what we wanted and what the objective behind it was, of course, mobility. I chose to learn how to rivet and paint with car paints, you know, airbrush. And so we have the story that critiques and pokes fun at Phoenix because you can imagine stopping there to cool off. But then I give back to Phoenix and to Arizona its grace because yes, we have beautiful sunsets, but I think the Arizona sunsets with that red earth, you know, is the winner there. Steve Brudniak, an artist from Austin, and I collaborated. He's a master fuser of materials. And so I told him, look, this is what I want, and can we do it? I'll do the layout, and you just position the gauges. And he did a real nice job, and he even solarized the gauges. Well, it was in a prominent space. It's still there in the airport, but after 9/11, some of the projects that were close proximate to the entries, of course, got moved. And a collection, a museum was developed. And so this one is encased because it was at a good, you know, location, a good entrance that became a security station. And of course, a travel brochure image of a Hawaiian girl in a cool island environment. It was what I chose for the image. This is called orientaciones, orientations, and it is a Legorreta, Ricardo Legorreta building in Dallas. It's the Latino Cultural Center. And I came in with 3 images and 3 themes: poetry, permanence, and passion. And the Legorretas were really great. Once they saw the images, they wanted to know if maybe we could reconfigure the space and make it like a rotunda and expand on the images. And so, yeah, we did that. A cultural center, I believe, orients its culture. When I looked at the floor plan for that building, I noticed that it was not true north. So I decided to put a compass pattern on the floor, and that points to true north. And that line, that northern line, goes all the way out to the pavement, to the exterior plaza. So that's orientaciones. This one is very dear to me. This next one that, okay. This is in San Antonio, and it's called, it's a little park. It's like a block square. It goes from street level to river level, and it's called the Historic Civic Center River Link Project. Small project with a big name, long name. There's 5 stations with different water features, and each station contains the voice of the river telling its story, how the river was put to work, and then how the river put people to work. So this is Landing 3, and it fronts the San Fernando Cathedral. Beyond that gate, at the very top, right in line is the door to the San Fernando Cathedral. And this one says, I was tamed, the river speaking, I was tamed, río amansado, to feed, to foster. Me nombraron San Antonio, who finds the lost. And I think that was opening day. It's a pretty little park. I worked with Lake Flato Architects for this one, and then for Main Plaza, which is right at street level. And then I worked with them for the New Austin Library. So this is the New Austin Library, and that's just one section. There's a bunch of different stations that contain materials that we used. The building is on Cesar Chavez in Austin, right in front of the waterway. And an existing building right next to it was the water treatment plant. And then we have the power station not far from there too. So we used salvaged parts, the refuge from the buildings that were torn down, bits and pieces of it, the gauges, the iron wheels, that opened the water power. And it's sprinkled throughout the building. I usually invite and work very well with my daughter. There she is next to me, Anna. She's a photographer, commercial photographer, and very adroit with, now with the digital age. So I will collaborate with anybody who helps me, bring something to fruition. And where do the stories come from? From their own locality, or they come from performative stories, some that I had told, that I had heard, or enacted. So the works went from handheld to wall hung to buildings, and breaking the binding came with unit and immersive installations in all these interior and exterior spaces. Especially with public art, which can expand the process. And a good number of the works came from the voices of the communities where I worked, where these projects were, addressing themselves, be it a river or a building, an airplane or a pandemic, speaking pollution, microplastics, global warming concerns. As in any archive, you see the stories of your era, stories explaining the ebbs and the flows of change, and I like spotting that. Presently, we are in tremendous waves of change. So if I were speaking to more of the audience of a university, I would always ask, how will you define your era? Utilizing your disciplines. The best advice that I will give them too is you must answer your mail, keep your appointments, return the phone calls. The rest is simple. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marissa Sage. I'm the director of the University Art Museum. I want to thank Celia Álvarez Muñoz so much for a beautiful, beautiful keynote address, a gorgeous exhibition, and for gracing us with your presence and giving us words of inspiration. Really appreciate it.
It is I that is appreciative to bring it to an institution, that is so close to home and that it was placed. The timing of the exhibition came very well because it developed a dialogue between UTEP, which is my old alma mater. I went there when it was Texas College of Mine, or Texas Western College, not Texas College of Mine. That was before my time. But that these institutions be speaking to each other, this collaboration aspect, this going back and forth, is something that lures me, intrigues me, and I am really excited about when institutions respond, to a situation like that and develop a dialogue and bring that knowledge to the university. I think that now I'm going to take a little bit more time.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I believe
Please.
there is a necessity now to look at art, especially in these times of distress, because beauty is a source of joy. It's encouraging the sources of interest and the burgeoning field of neuroaesthetics, which examine the biological basis of our emotions and our responses to art, and supports this view. Current research shows, and it's opening new fields of study that tells us that engaging with art can activate the brain's reward system, releasing chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. And after the pandemic, closures of museums like during the 2020 to 2021, there's a growing movement to expand access to the arts as a pathway to well-being. So studies reveal that artistic and cultural activities promote physical and psychological health. And I'd like to end with this last bit. It's a good message. It's a wonderful message. I think the more clearly that we can focus our attention on the wonders and the realities of being of this universe about us, the less taste we shall have for the destruction of our race. I'm quoting fabulous writer Rachel Carlson. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Oh, any questions? Diego, hi. Any questions?
None. Everything was understood.
I know, because you're brilliant. Okay, well, I will take this time to say one thing. As Celia exposed in her talk, she has made connections and collaborations and magic happen with her art. This exhibition, which you'll all be following us to in a moment, I hope, Celia Álvarez Muñoz, Breaking the Binding, is of 7 different large-scale installations that showed all over the country and globally. But as part of this exhibition, Celia collaborated with Radius Books up north in Santa Fe. And the exhibition, which is built off books and research and thought and life and inspiration and color and words and all the things you use in your research, was made into a very beautiful book that I hope that you'll all look at while you're in the exhibition. It's a labor of love for Celia and Radius up north. And Radius Books will be here as part of Research and Creativity. Hi, they are here as part of Research and Creativity. And tomorrow they're going to be leading a workshop at 1 p.m. at the NMSU Art Museum. Thank you for being here and doing that. And thank you for Dr. Cifuentes and Marshall for integrating the arts and Celia into this beautiful week of Research and Creativity. Go onto the website to find out more, and also onto uam.nmsu.edu to find out more about art programming. And please follow us. We're just going to take a right out of the building and walk down University Avenue to 1308 University Devastali Hall for a reception to honor Celia and the start of Research and Creativity Week. Please come with us. Thank you. Oh, and Celia wants you to know you can ask her questions there as well.